It's Sunday, December 29th, 2024, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time here in Champaign, Illinois. You're watching Co-op for Two. I'm just having my decaf coffee here because I'm hoping to go to sleep after this to get enough rest so that we can continue our nighttime streams of Razorhurst Bud Alley. Lots of stuff going on here. Let me say hello to everyone. Make sure that we are live. Doris Lewis is here. I just saw Doris post on the Puzzle People Facebook group buying a used copy of Site Q from Cozy Killer. Is that right, Doris? That's a big, expensive, giant box. I'm curious to hear how it is. We have played one Cozy Killer on the channel. The Hidden Listener took us 10 sessions. Mixed thoughts about that. You can watch my spoiler-free review on the channel, but Site Q is a setting I'm very curious about, and I'm curious to hear how it is. So today we are continuing our playthrough of something very special, a custom mystery that's being written for us week by week, a play-by-mail game set in the New York Noir world, whose materials I have in front of me here. Lots of work ongoing in New York Noir. I've been working on code to make it easier for case authors to write some fancy evidence stuff. I've just finished a whole fingerprint directory. Now we're going to explore some other things, newspaper templates. Anna, who's here in the channel, has written her first case for New York Noir. I'm looking forward to playing that on the channel. Maybe some more of you will get the bug from watching these playthroughs to try writing your own case. I have a case I'm very excited about that I've just started working on. And some of you have heard me talk about how much I love this play-by-mail format and how I want to extend the New York Noir software and tools to supporting play-by-mail games. So I hope in a year from now, we will be able to play a game made in the New York Noir world that's server-based play-by-mail, much like murdersbymail.com. All right. Anything else we should talk about? Debbie, who's been helping with all the editing for all the New York Noir cases, has been doing some editing on Anna's case. She says, I just did some editing on Anna's first case. It's pretty good. And Anna is planning on making a trilogy, you think, Anna? I mean, the longer games are my favorite. You may have time to catch up if you want to join our Razorhurst nighttime live streams. We've played 2 sessions so far. We're maybe a third of the way through the game. We're playing again tonight. And then the plan is to play again Monday night, take off Tuesday. One of these days, my sleeping schedule is going to catch up with us, and we may have to take off. But Razorhurst Blood Alley is getting really good. All right, so New York Noir Improv, that's being written by Matt C., who's probably in the channel, but was joining us last night, so he may not make it tonight. Let's remember where we let off and what reply we sent. So a quick recap. A quick recap of our case. Our client is Michael Lant, who wrote to us about a weird card game, crooked card game he's involved in, possibly related to crooked stock trading, possibly relating to a feud. In this letter, we got some surprises. First of all, detective showed up asking about our client and an investigation. Wouldn't say anything about it, but is investigating our client. We have no idea what this is about. There's our bill so far. Michael Lant himself, our client, wrote back to reveal a little bit of his backstory. I'm not sure why he didn't provide this information right up front, but he's basically saying that actually I'm in a feud with one of these guys I play cards with, Maurice Hamoud, and he tells us why. He borrowed some money, he was late paying it back. Now this guy Hamoud is spreading rumors about him. Everyone knows about the feud. It's making his life, so far it hasn't hurt him, but he fears it will hurt his work. We asked him about this operator. Our theory, we had a very brilliant theory, was that one of the card players is deliberately losing in order to get the punishment, which in one case at least had to do with sitting in for the Baltimore Stock Exchange operator. So we think maybe someone's getting some insider trading information. We asked him to find out more about that, and he gave us the name of the operator. So we're hoping to talk to her, Margaret Layton. That's one of the things we asked in our last letter to check up on. We asked more about the punishments, who loses, who sits with who. He says, I did find Hamoud's last couple of sales, and he gives us this information, which we are discussing the idea of borrowing stock. So he says, I did look into this a little bit, and it turns out he sold Central Railroad shares, but before he sold them, he borrowed them, and he still hasn't paid them back. Similar pattern with Kimmel and AT&T. So Hamoud and Kimmel are doing some shady business with stock exchange, and we talked about this process of borrowing shares. You borrow shares, you pay a little bit of money, you borrow the share, you sell it, you keep that money, and it works only to make you money if the stock drops in price. Stock drops in price, you rebuy the stock at a cheaper price and you give it back to whoever you borrowed it from. So imagine you borrow 1 million shares at $10 each. So they're worth 10 million, but you borrowed them when they're worth 10 million. You maybe pay the guy $100 to borrow the shares for a month. You sell them, you get your $10 million. Now the stock price drops, and now they're only worth $1 each. So you're sitting on 10 million cash because you sold them when they were worth 10 million. So you rebuy them at $1 each, cost you $1 million, and then you give them back to the person you borrowed them from. Now you've made a $9 million profit minus the $100 it cost you to borrow the stock. The only problem is if the stocks don't drop in value, you're screwed, because then you have to buy them at a higher cost. You've promised to buy them so that you can pay them back. So we know now he hasn't paid them back. The stocks are going up and up. This is going to fail miserably if the stocks don't go down, if that's what's happening here. It's not 100% clear that that's what's happening, though. And our knowledge of the stock market is shaky. Then we heard back from Alice, our favorite little 15-year-old. I forget if she's 15 or 17, detective. We told her to visit Mr. Want to ask him questions, but he was at work. We didn't pay enough attention to this, actually. I'm not sure why we didn't send someone to his work even after this. But basically, she goes to his home. He's not there, but she talks to the wife, they have a new baby. He's overworked. She thinks her husband is just upset about the rival Hamoud. But she doesn't give us that much information. And then Alice says, so it seemed like my visit was not didn't yield anything. But then she says, but guess what? When I came out of the place, it looked like someone was casing the joint and watching me. So she leaves and then starts watching this guy who was watching the apartment of Michael Want. And she actually follows him, and we traced out this route, and he disappears headed up Wall Street. She gives us a description, but she didn't see his face. So we wonder if that's not the police that are investigating Michael Want or something else. We don't know. Then we had our guy who's an ex-boxer. I think that's who we sent here, Roger Vernon, yeah. So he went to talk to a couple of the other people from the card game. Kimmel, Hartman. Kimmel didn't have to say much. He says, I own a lot of stock in AT&T. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong. He says, everything's going up. The stocks are all going up. Well, that's sort of a bit of a problem for our theory. If he's really telling the truth and he thinks they're going to keep going up, why would he borrow it and sell it? Maybe we're making a mistake about that. Then he goes to Hartman, who's a big shot at Chase. And Hartman calls in some muscle. Our guy pretends he wants to invest, and he says, okay, well, if you invest $1,000, I have some closely guarded intelligence that you'll get by being one of my big clients. So now we got to feel, is this guy selling insider information or something? We're not sure. But when our guy acts a little suspicious, this guy, Hartman, calls in the muscle at the bank. And then our guy does one last thing. We asked him, go to AT&T, find out, is there anything they know at AT&T that the stocks are going to drop? And he says, nope, they're going up and there always will. And then lastly, we sent our alcoholic cop to the bar to watch the card game, and he completely exaggerated everything, got drunk, passed out, didn't even notice anything. He does say that this guy who runs the game was assigning seats, so maybe we think there may be something going on with who's deliberately sitting with who. If our theory is right about deliberately losing games, this would help them lose games. And I guess the other part I skipped over a little bit was we asked our guy, Michael Want, to see if he could get records of who was losing when. And he says, I asked him, and he said, they're all filed away at home. Stop bugging me. So we didn't get history. And Michael Want also told us about some guests at the last card game. We did not follow up. Maybe some of us wanted to, not me, but some of us did. And then there was also a mention of stopping by Michael Lott's work if we wanted to talk to him. I'm not sure why we didn't. I think it would be helpful to stop by at Irving Trust. So I think I'm going to make a little card for things we might want to follow up on. We might want to visit Michael Lant at Irving Trust, especially if the cops might be following him. I wonder if we could send Alice to Irving Trust and if she might recognize that guy outside of Michael Lant's work. And then maybe the guests. Cards. Send Alice to Spot Detective. Okay, so now when we sent our letter, our reply, and asked for what we wanted done, first we were confused about the borrowing of stocks and holding on to them. And so we asked Michael Lant to see if he could find out when the borrowed stocks do need to get paid back. We didn't want to pay our hardball $2 an hour yet, although he would be a good person to follow the person who's following us. Roger Vernon, who's our go-to guy, we're having him do most of our work. We want him to visit Hamoud, the rival, who's spreading bad word about our client. So we want him to ask about it. He tends to threaten people as soon as he gets the chance. So we've given him some advice. Don't threaten someone unless you have to. If for some reason he's not at work, try his house. Then the alcoholic, since he was a beat cop, was or is, we told him to go to the financial district precinct to see if he can't find out why they're investigating Michael Lant. Now, what's this home thing? Find Alexis Cohen. Oh, Alexis Cohen was the cop. We did get the name of the detective that's investigating Michael Lant, not their home precinct. So we said, look, it's probably operating out of the financial district precinct. So try to find Alexis Cohen there. If you can't, stop by her home. I don't think she's going to like that, but we want to know why they're investigating our client. My theory is maybe that his rival is spreading false rumors, maybe called in a false lead to the cops. And then Alice, we decided to send her to the Baltimore telephone operator. And we gave an address of Margaret Layton. And I think Margaret Layton's going to welcome Alice in, an enterprising, ambitious young girl and a working woman. She's going to welcome Alice in and talk shop with her about whether anyone could get any good insider information by taking over as the telephone operator. This is our major theory of our case, that someone is deliberately losing the games in order to get certain punishments that might involve doing things like sitting in as a backup phone operator so that they can get insider information. And we're hoping that Margaret Layton will be able to shed some light on that. there's some thought that we might need to talk to an expert in financial crime soon. I'm going to put that down in our list of follow-up things. I'm a little surprised that we didn't send someone to Michael Lont's work, but I guess we're a little, what would you say? We're a little cautious about sending lots of people everywhere. We're sort of just putting our feelers out until we really get a lead that we really feel strongly about. And we don't want to overtax our people, though it seems like we didn't give them enough to do this week. It feels like we could have sent some people to visit the guests, etc. But okay. So there you have it. Now you're caught up. Now let's take a look at our latest letter. Is there anything I didn't address? Anything to talk about that we missed? What is everyone drinking here? You know what? I'm sort of curious what everyone's hours here. Some of you here are joining me for the night streams and the daytime streams. I don't know if Anna is off work recently. Do most of you who join me for the Sunday afternoon streams, do you wake up early? Are you in the United States? I have a feeling that most of my viewers are outside the US or have very weird hours. All right, while you're answering that, I'll get today's letter set up. It actually seems pretty big today. A reminder that Matt is writing these as we play them. He gets our replies on Tuesday or so, Monday or Tuesday, and then he writes the reply. He gets to watch us play, so he knows our little theories, and then he writes the reply by the end, before the end of the week. I have stockpiled peppermint mocha, and I'm enjoying a cup now. I guess that's white girl. It's that white girl coffee. Anna says, winter holiday for me, drinking herbal tea before bed. Debbie is in the UK. Doris says, I'm in the US and can only catch the weekend streams. Sunday stream is Europe friendly, says Rob. Amato Rose is drinking chai tea. Matt C says, I've been under the weather drinking horchata Pedialyte. Horchata Pedialyte. So that's the thing that's got electrolytes for children. Or my wife and I are opposite in lots of ways. And one of the ways is she's like a robot with her food consumption. She goes climbing 3 times a week. So she has to I caught her eating a chunk of Parmesan cheese and taking a spoonful of oil. So she's like, she has to add salt to get her electrolytes when she's climbing and her protein powders after she climbs. So she just cannot ingest enough extra fat and chemicals, whereas I have stored up fat from sweets and snacks that I could live off for years. In my body, I mean. Melissa says, I'm in Kansas. I just keep odd hours. I have transitioned to a hybrid job so I can catch random days and nights. Okay. I wonder if we shouldn't... Oh, looks like we got a newspaper article today. I wonder if I've been getting these in the wrong order, so I think maybe I'll staple these. Well, maybe after we read it. All right, so let's proceed through. Dear Mr. Reichart, this is Bill Wiggins. I assume you read Friday's journal. If not, please take a look at it now. I've enclosed a copy of the relevant page. Okay, so I see we've got an article from the Wall Street Journal Friday. Wow, okay. Look at this. Call back to our previous case where I had this theory about tulip investments. Okay. What have we got here? Newspaper article. He's enclosed. Friday morning, October 11th. When did our case start? October 1st. So it's now October 11th. All right. See a couple of articles. Arson in financial district. 2 dead. The NYPD has confirmed the fire, which occurred Saturday at 160 Front Street, has been attributed to arson. The fire's origin and impact were originally undisclosed, but the NYPD has announced that it claimed the life of American Family Insurance executive Maurice Hamoud and his wife Eva. Whoa. Now the plot has really thickened. Holy cow. Now we've got murder. Wow, we went from a simple card game to possible insider trading to murder. Wow, this has completely changed everything. The fire was believed to have started at 1 a.m. I wonder if our guy talked to Hamoud before this happened. The fire was believed to have started at 1 a.m. Saturday morning, according to nearby witnesses. NYPD and was put out within a few hours. NYPD Homicide issued its first press release this morning on the matter, attributing the fire to a targeted attack on Hamoud by a professional rival. Is Michael Want going to get pulled in and arrested? Do they think it's Michael Want? Based on key witness testimony and evidence of the motive, means, and opportunity of our suspect, we are building a strong case to deliver justice to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Hamoud. Homicide is not prepared to comment further while the investigation is ongoing, but we are working closely with our colleagues at Forensics to review evidence found at the scene. The investigation is being led by Detective Alex Cohen. That's the person who showed up at our offices of NYPD Homicide. Wow. Detective Cohen implores anyone with information to reach him directly at his office in Chelsea or their local NYPD precinct. Okay, so he's in the Chelsea precinct. While there were several witnesses to the fire, it's critical we corroborate details of events leading up to it. Wow. Wall Street stock exchange broker Michael Want was taken into custody Monday evening and is expected to be charged with first-degree murder. Whoa. Well, this whole case has now gotten much more serious. Is it possible our client is guilty? I don't believe it. You don't call in Sherlock Holmes when you're guilty. Hamoud's death puts the future of AFI's Manhattan office into question. Decisions about the company's direction will likely occur amongst leadership in Wisconsin. Funeral services are expected to be held on Friday at Zion Memorial Chapel. Wow, our client has just been arrested for murder. How do you like that? That's serious. This case just got much more serious. Former Chancellor, this is other articles in the paper. Welcome site. Winston Churchill, former Chancellor of the Exchequer for Great Britain, was spotted by journal correspondents among the buzzing excitement of the Wall Street Stock Exchange. Churchill, who retained his MP seat but suffered a party defeat earlier this year, famously advocated for a return to the gold standard after initial reluctance. Failed experiment is appreciated by American economists, previously speculating on its effect, more so than back home. But most of the excitement this month is directed towards his celebrity. Churchill holds a diverse portfolio on Wall Street and has made a point to follow up on his investments personally. Lonely doubter of market trends finds an unexpected ally. Close followers of the market may be aware of a Massachusetts statistician, Robert Babson's provocative claim at the National Business Conference in September that the market would not only slow down but reverse to unimaginable lows. Babson's prediction remains controversial, now finds agreeable company with rumored views of famed economist Irving Fisher. According to sources of the journal, Babson and Fisher, who normally find themselves at opposite ends of the political spectrum, may take comfort in company with their unpopular claims. Babson, known for the establishment of Babson College and biblically titled 10 Commandments of Investing, may not be helping to allay criticisms of eccentricities with his claims, but took no issues with rumors that Fisher planned to publicly rebuke the market alongside him. Fisher did not respond to the journal's request for comment. Babson, however, humorously alluded to physicist Sir Isaac Newton. What goes up must come down. The same for my reputation. Well, this is important for us because we're sort of interested in if someone is predicting the market's going to fall. So we've got Irving Fisher and Robert Babson. Babson College. If we could talk to one of these people, I don't know if that's in New York City. And who's Irving Fisher? Famed economist Irving Fisher. Tulip Madness. This is a callback to a theory I had in the first case that Matt wrote a year ago. 300 years later, a reminder of market durability. Tulip Madness occurred in the Dutch Republic during the 1630s, now marking nearly 300 years. The frenzy centered around tulips, a flower that had recently been introduced to Europe from the Ottoman Empire and quickly became a symbol of wealth and status. As demand for tulips grew, so did their prices. Speculators started trading bulbs, often without even seeing them, and the market spiraled into a frenzy. At the height of the mania, a single tulip bulb could be sold for the equivalent of a house or more. This speculative trading led to an unsustainable rise in prices, fueled by hype and an eagerness to profit. However, in 1637, the dream ended. Tulip prices collapsed suddenly, leaving many investors bankrupt and causing widespread financial chaos. While the event was devastating for many, it didn't lead to lasting economic damage in the broader Dutch economy and can be viewed as a reminder of the durability of markets. Investors can look back in awe at this odd moment in economic history and appreciate the miracle of the modern-day stock exchange as a seemingly bottomless source of wealth for everyday Americans. That is a very nicely written article. All right. Wow. All right, let's go back to the letter from Wiggins. Serious. Boy, that's a twist. It seems our client, Mr. Want, is in trouble. Perhaps his efforts to find some scandal of Mr. Hamoud was part of a more permanent revenge, or his patience ran out, but some details are not adding up in my mind. If Want's obsession with revenge was so extreme, why outsource it to us? I must admit that despite my efforts to stay out of this, curiosity got the better of me, and I attended the funeral on Friday. Okay, so the funeral is over. It's now October 16th. Okay. It's October 16th. The paper was October 11th. All right, he attended the funeral. On the way, I ran into Detective Cohen, perhaps not so surprisingly. I think I understand now why you paid me a visit, I said. I apologize for the cryptic nature of our interview, Mr. Wiggins. I'm glad you're here. It came to my attention that Lant sought your services. I realize you must protect his confidentiality, but now that you know the extent of this case, I'll ask you if you want to reconsider. I'm sorry, Detective, it's a professional obligation, I reminded Cohen. However, if I had suspected Mr. Hamoud, or anyone else for that matter, was in danger, I would have reached out to you right away. There was nothing to suggest it. I must ask, however, how did you know Lant was my client? My sources must remain confidential. You have your obligations and I have mine. Best of luck, Mr. Wiggins. You know where to find me. Cohen. Then Cohen took his seat. I quietly observed the funeral proceedings, not giving myself away to any others in attendance. Hamoud's son Victor spoke. It was difficult to discern who attended, having not met any of them previously. However, I was able to subtly flip through the guest log on my way out. It seems everyone from the card game was there: Carrier, Kimmel, Hartman, and Cunningham. Ben Jansen was also in attendance, but notably I found the name Michelle Lant. It makes sense that Mrs. Lant would attend, perhaps feeling some uncertainty or guilt about the situation. We talked to Michelle Lant. I'd like to refresh my memory who some of these people are. Carrier is the guy who runs the games. Kimmel and Hartman are card players. Who is Cunningham and Ben Jansen? Does anyone remember? James Jimmy Cunningham. This is Michael Lant's friend. Cunningham is Michael Lant's friend. Is Michelle Lant the wife, or is that Michael? No, Mrs. Lant. Okay, that's the wife. That's the wife. And who was Ben Jansen? Does anyone remember who Ben Jansen was? And we're told Hamoud's son Victor was there. Who was Ben Jansen? He's not in my list of characters. Surely someone in the chat remembers. Hamoud was teamed up with a player, wasn't he? He and someone else were the ones thought to be cheating. Well, it's Hamoud. Hamoud and Kimmel always seem to win, and Hartman is the one who's losing to Kimmel and maybe to Hamoud. So they could all be involved, depending on whether you're trying to win or lose. But I need someone to remind me who Ben Jansen is. Otherwise, we're going to have to search until we find it. No one is chiming in. Earl Floyd is one of the guests. Mason Carrier is the guy running the game. Hartman is the guy who's losing. Cunningham is our friend. Well, we got a problem here. If no one in the chat can remember who this is, and I can't remember, we need to find it. It's not the author of the Wall Street Journal article, is it? No. Name sounds a little bit familiar. I feel like I'm getting mad at the channel. No, Matt, you're not allowed to help us. No, Matt is not allowed to help us. Maybe we should develop some system for flagging names. Herman Whitwer is the guy who ran Hamoud's job. Margaret Layton is the phone operator. Carrier runs the game. There he is, Ben Jansen. Normally we keep a sort of list of players, and it would behoove us to do so. The guests both worked for Capital Growth Investment. One of them, Ben Jansen, sat at my table. Okay. So Ben Jansen is a guest card player from Capital Investments that we did not follow through on. Okay. On we go. Okay, so he went to the funeral, Wiggins, and he told us who was there. That was good of him. I believe it is our obligation to see this investigation through. Want did pay us up front, after all, but regardless, it's not sitting right with me. At this point, I would think we have two objectives. One, confirm whether Want killed the Hamouds, and if not, who. Two, conclude our task of investigating the card game for Want. Please let me know your thoughts and any additional leads you'd like to pursue. I still have those NYPD connections. Should be able to get us eyes into any of the NYPD labs for 50 cents each if you know where to look. I also learned Want is being held in lockup at the Financial District Precinct if you want to send an investigator to interview him. Unfortunately, I won't be available to assist, but I will keep my eyes open. Okay. Well, I think it might be time to send in the professional gumshoe. NYPD Labs. Okay. Here's Alice's letter to us. Dear Mr. Reichler, I see how it is, sending the young lady to talk to all the women. I'll have you know I'm quite capable of taking on the most dangerous crooks in this city, despite what my dad thinks. He heard about that incident with the trenchcoat man and got really upset that I chased him. But he seemed more upset about the coffee. Because she was served coffee, remember? No skulkers this week. The good news is I got a lot out of this one. Locating Margaret Layton was a cinch. She was home right where we thought she'd be on Saturday. I didn't want to spook her, so I told her I was lost and asked if I could come in and call my dad. Gave me the perfect opportunity to ask a lot of questions while we were waiting and to get my dad out of the house. I asked her about her job, and she said she was a telephone operator at the Wall Street Stock Exchange. She helps connect brokers in Baltimore to brokers in New York. That sounds exciting, I said, and I bet you know all about the stock market. No, it's nothing like that, she explained. I mostly just receive and connect calls, but I'm very good at it. I used to work for the phone company but I did well there. And Irving Trust Bank gave me this opportunity. Huh. This is where want works. There has to be more than that, ma'am. I really believe that. Well, sometimes I do hear a thing or two. I still have some connections to AT&T, and there's a gentleman who calls from Baltimore every Monday. We've gotten quite friendly, and he speaks more directly about things. It's a great company, don't misunderstand me. But sometimes what we say isn't what we know. Oh, I'm sorry I said anything at all about it. Sometimes I say more than I should. Aw, but this is really interesting, says Alice. Please. Well, there's not much more to say. If you want to know more about stocks, you should be talking to one of the brokers. I don't think they'd let you in there, but maybe I can ask Jimmy for a favor. We're very good friends, and maybe he can... No, I shouldn't. Jimmy, this is Cunningham. I shouldn't. Right when I was getting to the meat of it, there was a knock at the door. Why couldn't Dad have walked slower? I believe you found my daughter, Dad said. Oh, yes, Miss Slayton answered. She's a very curious young woman. You ought to keep an eye on her before she wanders off again and gets lost. I can't help but agree. Come on then, Alice, let's go. But Dad, Miss Slayton is telling me all about her job. I want to be a phone stock person someday. There's plenty of time to think of that later, Alice. Dad thanked Miss Layton for her help. It was a long, quiet walk back. Sincerely, Alice. Yeah, Alice is the best for sure. Well, what's happening here? We got a couple of interesting things. First of all, she's saying Irving Trust Bank gave me this opportunity. And Irving Trust is where Michael Want worked, right? That's what we've written down. So that's odd. And then she does reveal from Alice's prodding that she's got a connection to AT&T every Monday. It's a great company, don't misunderstand me, but sometimes what we say isn't what we know. And then she says, there's not much more to say. You should talk to the stockbrokers. And then she reveals that she's good friends with Jimmy. Very good friends. This is Lott's friend. Jimmy Cunningham, no doubt. Is that suspicious? I mean, as far as we know, Jimmy Cunningham isn't up to no good. He's the one who's our friend, but maybe we should treat him with some suspicion. Does this Monday mean anything to us? Calls from Baltimore every Monday. I mean, we are told about when in letter 2, we're told about most weeks can find someone to help the exchange. A couple weeks ago, the phone operators were understaffed. That was where Hartman ends up covering during her lunch break. AT&T is a great company, but sometimes what we say isn't what we know. What does that mean? I'm not sure we know. We know it was a couple weeks ago, but I don't think we don't know what day it was that they had to cover for that phone call. We just get told that it was a couple of weeks ago. Hmm. This is very odd that they're so buddy with the Irving Trust and Jimmy Cunningham. What's our story with Cunningham? Let me read now that, I mean, we wrote him off, sort of. James Jimmy Cunningham, also a stockbroker. We know hand signals. Nice guy. A bit of a sore loser when the game doesn't go his way. I've had him over for dinner. Hmm. Don't really. Does anyone have a feel for what this means? AT&T is a great company, but sometimes what we say isn't what we know. Do we know what day of the week the card game is? I think we do know. We know it's weekly. Um, I think we did learn what day of the week it is, but we may have to go back and hunt for that. Kristen has a theory. Maybe what she means here is he's telling her something and telling the person he's calling something different. That's an interesting theory. Hmm. Okay. Well, let's keep going here. Next letter is from Roger Vernon, our ex-boxer, medic, jack of all trades. I want to apologize for last week. Sometimes I get a bit riled up in the moment. We told him, don't be threatening everyone. He says, sometimes I get a bit riled up in the moment. There's no excuse for it. That guy Hartman was quite a phony. He seemed like the kind of person who sent me and my brothers, who died in my arms, off to France. It's not fair of me, though. So I'll make sure my brain does the thinking instead of my heart from now on. You sent me on quite an adventure, sir. It all started when you sent me to Hamoud's address. You sent me Hamoud's address, and I looked at it alongside the morning paper the next day. Ah, I missed it. I happened to follow current events and should have recognized it earlier from the fire over the weekend, but seeing Lant and Hamoud in the paper gave me quite a pause. I decided the best use of my time was to visit the house itself and see what I could find. Wiggins gave his friend at NYPD a heads up so they'd know I was coming. I'm no forensic expert, but I've seen a few fires. I strolled up Front Street and tipped my hat to the officer watching the scene. 160 was almost a pile of rubble, charred black and partially collapsed. That's the fire. So we didn't get to it soon enough. Just don't touch anything or walk under anything, he told me. By the way, you ever meet Sherlock Holmes? Pretty great that you're sorry. Anyway, go ahead. The name drop does explain how Wiggins makes so many friends. Fortunately, our detective friends took the liberty of labeling evidence at the site and hadn't cleaned it up yet. I spent some time walking around writing down what I saw. Okay, wow, look at this. Outlines of two bodies with debris piled to the side. Police crafted something out of bricks and tape because you wouldn't be able to get chalk on all this rubble. Obviously, Mr. and Mrs. Hamoud. They were most likely on the collapsed second floor and had to be dug out. Shattered glass, presumably the arsonist shattered a window. Several partially melted nozzles of gas canisters. Remnants of a rope, possibly used as a fuse, leading from the canisters out to the side of the property. Footprints outside the property. Well, that sounds interesting. A playing card near the house, the King of Hearts, with the word replica written on it in pen. I suppose they took the real one to the lab, and this one was just a placeholder. That's an odd statement. A playing card near the house, the King of Hearts, with the word replica written on it in pen. I suppose they took the real one to the lab, and this one was just a placeholder. I guess he's suggesting that they found a card on the scene, and when they took it away, they left a different placeholder card in his place. It does not sound like what the cops do. I think they would just leave a numbered piece of paper there showing that that was evidence rather than try to replicate it. But okay, maybe they did things differently back then. Well, footprints we would like to see. Maybe we can get a footprint size or pattern of our arsonist. And did our arsonist drop this playing card? Sort of hard to know, but we could get fingerprints possibly from it. I stared at the taped off footprints for a few minutes, then took off my shoe and leaned over to compare it. Going by the difference, I would say the print is a size 9 or 10. Also noticed the dirt surrounding but not under the footprints was disturbed, possibly by the police, but there were no visible prints anywhere else and it was taped off. The dirt surrounding but not under the footprint was disturbed. I wanted to visit American Family Insurance on Monday as well, but I had to be delicate in light of the recent tragedy. I stopped by Monday morning. As I walked in, I spotted that large fellow, Kenter, in a chair reading a newspaper and quickly turned around. Maybe word got around that I was harassing executives and I'd be better off not showing my face here. I told Wiggins about it and he said he would send a friend instead. So Kentner is the muscle working for Hartman at Chase Bank, and now he's showed up here. Huh. The dirt surrounding but not under the footprints was disturbed, possibly by the police, but he sees no other prints anywhere else. What's happening here? Dirt surrounding, but not under the footprints. So someone has walked, left footprints. They're fine, but the dirt around it is all messed up. What does that mean? Dragging the gas canisters or covering up other footprints? I wonder if they're covering up other footprints. And then, thinking along the same lines, I see that Anna says someone is trying to frame him with that card. That makes some sense. Someone is trying to frame him. Kristen says, King of Hearts, Hartman. I wonder if someone is trying to frame someone and they've brushed away their footprints and left his shoes from this guy. And have they left a card deliberately with his fingerprints to frame him? That's very interesting. I like it. I like this theory. All right, let's see. We still got one more letter from Joe Fillion, the cop we sent to try to talk to Alexis. Dear Mr. Riker, thanks for putting your trust in me, pal. Wiggins told me about his run-in with that detective, so I followed up right away to get more answers. I knew a guy in the financial district, so I went to the precinct and happened to see your boy Lant getting his prints taken behind the counter. That was some surprise. I wanted to find out more. Hey, that's my client, I shouted. What's the matter with you? Lant and the others all turned toward me, looking surprised. I'm a private investigator, former police, I continued. Don't you read the paper? The sergeant asked. This son of a bitch burned a couple to death in their sleep. Are you with Wiggins? Lant shouted. I didn't do it. Tell him I didn't do it. Please, you've got to help me. That's quite enough out of you. The sergeant smacked him lightly with his baton. If you want to talk, talk to the detective. After they dragged Lant away, the sergeant came back over and handed me Cohen's card. If you know anything that can help put this guy away, talk to him. He's leading the case. You got it, boss. I'd have to catch up with my old friend later. I drove over to Cohen's office at Homicide right away to learn more. After introducing myself to the front desk, I found myself sitting across from Alexis Cohen in his office. Nice family, I told him and pointed to the picture on his desk. Thank you. We went straight to business, and he went straight to business. Mr. Fillion, it is my understanding that you're a part of William Higgins' investigation into Maurice Hamoud and that Michael Lant was paying for your services. Is that correct? Hold on a minute, Chief. What is this, an interrogation? We're both trying to solve cases here. Why don't we help each other out? All right, what do you have in mind? Says Alexis Cohen. Well, I'll ask you a question and you ask me a question. How'd you figure out it was Lant so fast? It's only been a couple days. You got a witness or something? Okay, here's my question. When was your last drink? He picked up his notepad and looked at it. Was it on Friday, October 8th at Francis Tavern? Because I've got a man matching your description falling asleep at the bar shortly before our mutual friend started that fire. Hey, just what are you getting at? I asked. Don't get excited. All I'm getting at is this case needs to be closed and quickly. We can't have people setting fires and murdering each other in the financial district or thinking they can get away with this kind of thing. I have witnesses, but I need further corroboration from witnesses like yourself before I present our case to the DA. Would you do that for me, Joe? He opened his drawer and placed something on the table. I won't say what it was, but I sure did want it. Don't worry, there's nothing I saw at the bar that's different from what everybody else saw, but think of it this way. Now you got an inside man. I got a call later from Wiggins asking me to help with another lead, so I stopped by American Family Insurance. It sure was depressing there, and there were lots of flowers. No point in them downplaying what happened, I guess, if it makes the journal. Figured I could play the role of a sympathetic customer. I started nodding off a bit when the salesman was explaining the different insurance policies, but I think he knew I was bored, so now was my chance. Who's the muscle? I asked, pointing to the large guy reading the paper. He's just been sitting there the whole time. He's just been sitting there the whole time. In light of what happened, the guy explained, a friend of mine, Mr. Hamoud, offered to provide some extra security. There's probably no reason for it, but he's given us some peace of mind. Okay, gotcha. Wow, what a horrible thing, that fire. Did you know the guy? Yeah. Mr. Hamoud was a nice man. We're all in shock. I can't imagine someone would do something like this. I went into another trance not long after that, and the big guy gave me a nudge and asked me if I was okay, then walked me to the door. All right, this guy, Joe, he's a little unreliable. So we ask him a good question, but he flips it on us, and he says Friday, shortly before the fire, I guess. And a friend of Mr. Hamoud offered to provide extra security. This is going to be Hartman, who works at Chase, who's the bigger shot of all of them, who has his security guy. Hmm. Well, things have certainly taken a serious turn for the more serious. Why don't we take an 8-minute break here and then come back and decide what we want to ask about? That's a little tricky. But since it's been an hour, we'll take an 8-minute break. We'll come back and then we can all collaborate and figure out where to send our investigators. I'll see you in 8 minutes. All right, we're back. We have to decide what to do here. So a couple of angles that I think make sense for any detective work. First of all, we should be trying to establish an alibi for our client. I think primary thing then is to get someone in to talk to him. And it seems like what we really want there is an experienced investigator who knows what to ask him and who could probe Michael Want for any clues that might help us prove he's innocent. So I think what we've got is our first real use for our hard-boiled detective. So I'm going to check in with the chat for a second, but I strongly suggest that we send our established private investigator, master detective, former homicide officer, to get in and interview Michael Want. He also won't be easily discouraged. Former homicide officer, he's the person, if anyone can get in to interview and talk to Michael Want, other than a lawyer, that would be it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have Jackie Hardwell to get in to Michael and talk to Michael Want. Michael Want. Why is it doing that? Michael Want. Get his whereabouts or alibi. If he's former homicide, he might also talk with Alexis Cohen. If you have a chance, find out what evidence they have against him. Probe for any anonymous sources. I sort of suspect that someone is trying to plant information against Michael Want. So I wonder if someone didn't call in an anonymous call or something to try to put blame on Want. Although, I mean, the feud between Want and Hamoud is well known. So maybe you don't need anyone to point towards him. Okay, let me check in with the chat now. Could we be looking at hostile takeover through insider trading? I don't know if those kinds of details are going to be helpful for us to consider. I mean, I don't think you can't hostile take over AT&T. It's huge. So, but even if you could, that's going too deep into the rabbit hole. Kristen Hart says, American Family Insurance and AT&T seem to be connected in more than one way. Perhaps we should look over those connections. Cohen seems dodgy as hell to me. Cohen doesn't seem that dodgy to me. It just sounds like a hard-charging homicide detective. I don't see anything fishy about that. But, okay, now following up my sort of double-pronged approach, I think as a general investigatory scheme, we've got a client, Michael Want. So first step is establishing his alibi. He normally sleeps in his office. We haven't yet been to Irving Trust. And we've now heard another connection with Irving Trust. So I think we need to send someone to his work. He might have people there who could alibi, who might tell us about any other weird things going on at his work. So I do think we need to send someone to Irving Trust. I'm also very curious to talk to his friend, Jimmy Cunningham, who's at the funeral. He might have information or he might be involved. I'm thinking maybe we send Alice to talk to Jimmy, and we send our guy Roger Vernon to Irving Trust. But then the second prong of this is alibi for our client, and the other main thing is who would want to harm Hamoud. But let me put these in first. I think Roger Vernon, head to Irving Trust, find out about Michael Wan. I wonder if it's time to send our burglar in. Okay, I want Alice to go talk to Jimmy Cunningham about Michael Want. Who would want to harm Hamoud? So 2 angles, right? I probably is probably it would be you would be looking for someone who would kill 2 birds with 1 stone, like get rid of the Hamouds and blame and get rid of Michael Want. But I wonder if we haven't stumbled onto something that you'd need to get rid of Hamoud and Michael Want. Like Michael Want has discovered they might be doing some insider trading, and so you got to get rid of both of them. So the question is, who's working with Hamoud? And that brings us back to Hartman or Kimmel. So if you look at our last letter, we also got told that Roger Vernon tried to visit American Family Insurance, right? That's Hamoud's. Is that Hamoud's work? Yes. Hamoud's work is American Family Insurance. He was trying to be respectful, but he met the same guy that kicked him out last time. I told Wiggins about it. He said he would send a friend instead. So it does seem like, and Hamoud has a son. I think maybe the thing to do is send someone to Hamoud's house. We probably wrote down his house, didn't we? On our last letter. Hamoud's house, yes. So we know he has a son. I wonder if we shouldn't send someone to talk to. Yeah, we got to send someone to Hamoud's house and respectfully try to say, who would want to hurt your parents? It can't really be Alice. It's going to have to be our main guy, Roger Vernon. He's our main guy that we use for most things. Okay, we're going to have him go to Michael Want's business and then visit Mood Residence 48290. 90, talk to son Victor. Ask who would want to harm them other than our client, and was father involved in any shady business? Delicately. I like Roger Vernon, though. He seems like he is capable of handling this stuff. Michael Watts in jail. I think he's being framed, but by who? Hartman seems to be, his house burned down. You're right. Quite right. House burned down. Let's confirm that. Thank you for saving me from wasting a lead. A mood is 160 Front Street. Absolutely right. There is the house that burned down. So we can't very well send him there. Okay. Well, that's trickier then. We can't send him there, and he was scared off from visiting the work. Well, we want to get in touch with Victor then. We might have to. Okay, so I think what we're going to have to do instead. I think what we're going to have to do instead is get Wiggins. I think we need Wiggins to do this. We need to track down Victor, Mood's son. It was Wiggins, right? That goes to the funeral. Okay, so Wiggins was at the funeral. And ask who might want to harm parents and whether father was having financial problems. Possibly find through American Family Insurance 64143 may need your skills. If necessary, use Jackie. I mean, this is our time to use our Jackie. If you can't go. Now that we got a murder case, I think we're a little less worried about spending some money on this. All right, now I think we can have the beat cop. Well, no, let's have Roger Vernon talk also to the guest who was at the funeral. Talk to Ben Jansen, who was at Mood funeral. Ask about financial. Ask about a mood and business with him. Ben Jansen, huh? See if we can give him an address to go. Jansen. I don't see a Ben Jansen. What is that? Let's look up where we found Ben Jansen. They both worked for Capital Growth Investment. One of them, Ben Jansen, sat at my table along with Hamoud and Hartman. That sounds inviting. Okay, so let's go to their work. Capital Growth Investment. Bingo. 41 Broad Street. 59788. 59788. Okay, so my two-pronged approach: get alibis from Michael Lant and find out who would want to harm Hamoud. Arson, huh? He said arson and labs. Are there any police labs that we want to know about? We think he's being framed. I guess maybe we should ask Wiggins, talk to your contacts. Oops. About card, shoe prints. I guess when he talks to Michael Want, we should ask about his shoe size. Shoe size, where he was during fire. The son would presumably have an insurance policy if his father works in life insurance. American Family Insurance is where the Hamoods work. That's their family business. So surely they have some life insurance. I guess. What does son Victor do for a living? Who's the guy that we're told knows about the feud? Dean Kimmel. He became close with Dean Kimmel. I used to work with Kimmel a lot. Mostly he's avoided me since April. He's become close with Dean Kimmel. I mean, if you suspect someone of killing him, you might expect Dean Kimmel. Now, we talked to Dean Kimmel, right? What was the response we got about Kimmel? Surely it was Roger Vernon. Went to his home. He answered the door. He didn't want to talk. He says, I'm buying AT&T. Everything's fine. Where does Kimmel work? Wealthy investor. Borrowing stocks. Don't have a place where he works. Hmm. The other thing that occurred to me is we should be thinking about this in terms of we should be thinking about this in terms of an open-ended investigation. Hamoud was at 160 Front Street. Financial District 35. If it was gas canisters, Nurse Front Street. So there's the Hamoud house here on Front Street, right here. They believe it's arson. Now, we were told about gas canisters, right? Would it be possible for us to trace those gas canisters? We could catch someone who bought them. That would blow this case wide open. Partially melted nozzles of gas canisters, remnants of a rope. So they're going to try to frame someone, but they have to buy those gas canisters from somewhere. So here's my thinking. We could either talk to the fire department or police arson squad, see if they have any tips on what was used. What was what do they call it? Whatever when you start a fire, there's a word for the accelerant or something. But I wonder if we might also be able to, I mean, there's gas stations. You could get gas there, maybe. Hardware store. A little bit of a shot in the dark, though. But what if there was one right nearby? Let's just see if there's a gas station or a hardware store right nearby. All right, we're looking for a gas station in the financial district. What have we got? Shell Gas, 49 Broadway. Shell Gas, Financial District 64. Where is that? All the way over on the other side of town. That seems unlikely. What about a hardware store? I think hardware store might be under construction, architecture, or contractors. Ace Rubber Hardware. Yeah, let's see if we can find a financial district hardware store. 11 BH Stone. Hardware and lumber, Hanover Square. 69. That's still pretty far away. BH Stone is mausoleums. That's not what we want. All right. Well, try a different angle then. I still think that might be a reasonable angle for us, but maybe we should go to the experts first. So police special units. I want to see if there's an arson unit. Fire department might be investigating as well. Let's see if we have arson department here. Maybe that the fire department would do the arson investigation. Police Labs Arson Investigation Unit. Okay, I think what we need to do is send someone down there. Specifically ask if they can give us some tips on where someone would have gotten those gas canisters. Wiggins seems to have context there, so I think maybe we're taxing Wiggins a bit here, but contact arson investigation lab, which we think is 79687. 79687. See if you can narrow down the source of gas canisters or rope for that matter. Local hardware store, gas station, etc. And then we're asking him fingerprints, shoe prints. Yeah, we know where some of these places are. For example, fingerprints are at Fingerprints Lab is at 43891. Shoe prints, do we know where that would be? Probably just a generic forensics, soil trace, narcotics. I guess we'll let him figure that out. All right. I think Irving Trust, we need to give him an address here for Irving Trust. Did we not look that up yet? Irving Trust is Michael Wonk's business. Irving Trust. Oh, there's a whole Irving Trust actually has a bunch of spin-offs, but surely he works in the... Does he work at Irving Trust Bank or this chain place? I think he said he worked at the bank, didn't he? He told us where he worked. Irving Trust Bank. Okay, Irving Trust Bank. So 28587. Where am I? 28587. Irving Trust Bank. Irving Trust Bank. I'll tell you what else we could do. If we think he's being framed, if that's our theory, we could also ask him, has anyone taken anything of yours lately? And then who would benefit from getting rid of you? I suspect his friend Jimmy Cunningham, but maybe I'm just being too suspicious. Marlene says, is there anything special about the location of the house that was burned? That's an interesting alternative theory. I don't think so. I mean, we're told it was 160 Front Street. I don't think there's nothing jumps out. It's not like seems like it was directly attacked. Oh, where's our paper? Is there any clue here that we missed? Puts the future of AFI's Manhattan office into question. Remember, he's working for some other guy. All right, well, we're going to leave it here. We're going to leave it here with this as our instructions. Quite a bit we're asking about today, but we always take a day or so to chew on it before we submit our answers, our reply to Matt. So if you want to jump on the Discord for this channel and help us talk about these, suggest any last minute additions to this, jump on the Discord. There's a link to that on this YouTube page. If you just go to the starting YouTube page for Co-op for Two, you can click and get some other links, including the Board Game Geek Guild and the Discord. Either one will work. An amazing turn of events today. Our card game has turned into murder. Our gut tells us that our client, Michael Lant, is being framed. The question is, who benefits? What's the Latin phrase for who benefits? Okay, bono, cui bono. Who benefits? Who benefits from having Hamoud out dead and Michael Lant framed? It's whoever was doing this insider trading gets rid of the person who's trying to discover them and the unreliable partner. All right. So those of you who are joining me for Razorhurst, we're due to play in 7 hours. That's going to be cutting it close. And hopefully I will see you then. Otherwise, I'll see the rest of you next Sunday when we get our replies. See you then.